Hello and welcome to today's Battle Mech review. Today we're going to be looking at the Kraken, or the Bane, which is what it's actually called normally. I think Kraken is a very proper name for it, though, because it's got all of those tendrils trying to destroy you. The original might not have been as the most threatening mech around, but some of the more modern versions, like the one we have on the right there, is quite a monster. It's one of those things with the Kraken. It evolved a lot over the years, and even the original, if you start using it properly, is going to be a pretty dangerous threat. It's a little bit of an odd machine. It does have a very specific purpose, and it's quite a fun one, unless you get one in the shop, because, well, working on them is not too bad. It's actually painting the damn thing that is a pain because of all those flat surfaces on it. You just won't like working with it. So let's get into it. The original Bane comes from a Star League prototype of the same name that never reached full production, whose role was, well, you guessed it, to replace the Rifleman. A whole lot of things over the years wanted to replace the Rifleman or fall in the same category, and I would think actually that this particular Bane would have done the job, at least in some way. Big 100-tonner beasts are fairly scary, but the Bane's dedicated role made it more of a nuisance than a true monster in most Clan Tomon. It ended up working in garrison work and in the back most of the time. It wasn't meant to be a big frontline assault machine. It was meant to be there and be scary if people tried to steal your stuff. Nonetheless, since its introduction in 28-27, it spread quickly to pretty much all the clans, and it served well enough, I would say. Well enough that it was kept around, and it was kept in service more than other mechs of that era, or even other more modern Omni-mechs of that era. It's kind of weird once you think about it. Overall, the original Bane with its tons of Ultra EC2 is not the scariest clan mech out there, unless you're a VTOL pilot. If you are a VTOL pilot and you see a Bane on your screen, you are pretty much screwed. These things are meant for anti-air battery and long-range tank hunting. Little other tanks also really don't like the Bane because, well, all those little shots of 20mm shells is going to get into your skirt, and it's going to get into your foils and into all sorts of things, blow out your rotor, and, things are going to go really bad. Your vehicle is going to stop moving. At least in an other tank, if you stop moving, you can just bail out. In a VTOL, once you stop moving, well, you have a tendency to crash. Outside of this, though, it gets bodied by just about every other assault mech fairly quickly because, well, it doesn't have anything that will punch through a mech's armor. It'll plink at another mech, it'll cause little damage here and there. I mean, the mass of shots might start causing some issues, but still, it doesn't have enough ammo to really make a huge difference there. It's also quite expensive because it uses a large XL engine, not a rare one, it's a 300. But, it's not a thing that you can just stick a Solama pilot in and hope he dies a glorious death. It's the thing you're going to give a guy that's not honorable or brave enough to be on the front line, but not terrible enough that you want him dead. He's going to be sticking around, and he's going to live to the bright old life of 50 years old and hopefully die a warrior's death. Just to show just how much they were popular, well, during Operation Revival, Banes were still used in second line and garrison unit in the invading clans. The Inner Sphere faced them mostly during raid and smash and grab, where they were remarkably successful because they could take out raider cargo units and other transport unit. One of those little uni here on the side, I mean, those things are still decent enough, but they're still industrial mechs, and AC2s will punch through the armor quickly enough. They were also fairly hard units to avoid because once they grabbed the higher ground, they could just find targets and just start shooting with their autocannons until their reserves ran dry, which is quicker than it should have been, but that's just the problem with the original Bane. One people who still saw the use of the Bane was Clan Jade Falcon, and they started using the factories that they had captured on Sudeten to begin production of new versions of the Bane for future use. Starting in 3052, upgraded versions started walking off assembly lines, this time being far more threatening than they were before, making them actual threats to whoever wanted to get in front of them. Other Mechwarrior went from ignoring Bane pilots and just challenging them to trials for fun to actually being afraid of them if they showed up in a Mark II or a Mark III. The Jade Falcons did a very good job with that one, and I'll give them credit for that. I got my hands on the original SLDF prototype specs when I visited Earth a little while back, and it was kinda hard. I had to dig through both the SLDF's computers and the clan's computer that they allowed me to use. And thankfully, I had a lot of clearance that I was, well, probably not supposed to have, but I mean, they gave it to me anyway. Project Bane was an heavy anti-air platform featuring 8 2-class autocannon in the arms, 4 on each side, with 6 tons of reload, meant to be dedicated to flak rounds mainly, because that's what it was supposed to do. To protect you against infantry, you had a pair of machine guns mounted on the shoulder. Not the best place for it. I would probably have chin-mounted them if I had the choice there. But I'm not the original designer of that thing, and I mean, the original designer probably doesn't care because he's been dead for a while now. The one thing that did not carry over to this clan version was the integrated radar and guidance system that it borrowed, probably, they just grabbed it off of a rifleman. It looked kind of silly on the back of the original Bane from what I saw on the specs. But, I mean, 8 2-class autocannon, anti-air guidance, VTOLs would probably have thought that thing was a menace. And just about every other planes as well. I mean, it's not something that you would have used against other mechs, which is probably why it was not put into production during the MENACE Civil War. So your original 2827 Bane is the evolution of that SLDF design. At 100 tons, it goes 54 kilometers per hour using a 300 XL engine, which is a common enough engine amongst the clans and just about everybody, actually. I mean, you could stick an Inner Sphere 300 XL on the original, at least. You'd have room for it. But some of the more modern models, you would have to go back to that classic clan design, which is a little bit more compact. You get 10 double heat sinks to keep you decently cool. I mean, you're going to run just a tiny little bit hot if you shoot everything and you're running. But I mean, it goes down fairly quickly because you don't have any heat-intensive weapons on there. You get 19 tons of standard plates to keep the darn thing alive. I mean, it's incredibly tough unless something sneaks through the plates, and it's one of the ammo bin. Even with integrated case like most clan machines, this is probably the biggest problem of the Bane. You got a standard chassis as well, easy enough to repair and easy enough to fix once problems start arising, but the actuators are reinforced and shielded against infantry attacks, which is a bit weird for a fire support unit, but that's what they went with. And it's always something that I would like on these kinds of mech to have jump jets or something to be able to quickly reposition. But once you look at the whole spec of the thing, it probably just was no way to stick those on. It would have been just way too heavy. So at the core, the Bane/Kraken is meant to take out targets, especially armors, VTOLs, and other tanks at extreme range using 10 Ultra 2-class autocannons, 5 in each arm. It has extended torso twisting capabilities and arm flipping like any mech with no actuators there. So you get basically a 360-degree range of fire in just about every direction that you want, up, down, sideways, you decide. Against closer threat, you've got that shoulder-mounted standard auto machine guns on there. I've seen somewhat light machine guns on more modern models just to give you a little bit more range. It's not a big deal replacing the standard machine guns that you have on most clan machine with light machine guns. It's the same kind of assembly, so you can usually do the trick. The one big issue, though, is that you only have 4 tons of AC2 reload, so you're going to be chewing through your reserves incredibly fast and having to go back and reload. It's a bit of an issue. It doesn't have any quick access panels like you have on some SLDF mechs, which is what this thing was based on. So it's a little bit of an odd choice, but not terrible. The first big upgrade to the Bane featured Ultra AC-10s, which is probably one of the best ballistic weapon available out there outside of Gauss Rifle, which are their own category. It has decent range, great punch, decent ammo economy, not the greatest, but you're going to be shooting quite a bit with them and killing things fairly quickly. With their control over Olivetti weapons, the Clan Jade Falcon started to build those new Mark II Banes in 3053. Rather than AC2s, now the arms feature Ultra AC10s with 14 tons of reload rather than, 4 tons of reload you had on the original. You're about able to do 18 full salvos at full rate of fire before you start having some issues. People are going to suffer quite a bit from that. The first time, well, at least recorded time in history, the Inner Sphere faced a Mark II, things went pretty bad. At least that's what I was able to gather. A group of mercenaries were hired to raid an Olivetti supply depot and brought a full company of mechs and vehicle in a raid. The commander had a Shadowhawk and a bunch of other mobile mechs, and decided that when they were getting in, when they saw the Bane, that he would bait it into a close-range brawl, so he would be able to take advantage of the minimum range on the Ultra AC2s. And then he noticed that the guns in the shoulders of that thing were now 120mm cannons rather than 20mm plinkers. After a single volley, the mech buckled, the Shadowhawk 5M fell over, and the LRM ammo it carried exploded. Star Commander Hudon scored 3 other kills that day on mechs and not on vehicles, while the other supporters took out the rest of the smash and grabbers. This has not been recorded in the remembrance. It's not a great feat of strength, but I mean, if you look at historical records, it shows that sometimes you should look at what you're shooting at before jumping. The upgraded Bane worked, and not just because of the element of surprise. The 100-ton fire support platform is generally a good idea. You can look at things like the Annihilator as well for multiple 10-class autocannon on the same mech. The Bane being faster and having far more armor than the Annihilator makes it even scarier. In 3054, they introduced the Mark III, which decided to go full fire support, packing a whole lot of long-range missiles. Each arm now carries 15 rack of LRM for 120 tubes in total, and you got 16 tons of reload to be able to stay in the fight long enough. Due to massive heat spikes that the LRMs are going to do, I mean, this is not going to be like your AC2s there. You need 9 extra double heat sinks, and you got a nice little fancy one-shot streak 4-tube of SRM under the chin for fun. I have had it replaced with ER small lasers every once in a while. Actually, every time someone brings me one. I mean, a streak 4-tube of SRM is fun and useful, and it's going to have some utility at close range. But those LRM racks are just as good. It's short range and long range since they're the clan ones. This ER small laser gives you a little bit more reliability and a little bit more utility because you can use it to cut through things as well. Sometimes warriors do need that. The Mark III Bane is probably the most popular one nowadays. Even though I still see people with the Mark I and Mark II, the Mark III just shows up all the time, and you've got people from every single clan trying to get one for their own service. A lot of people actually think this is the basic Bane nowadays because it just works so damn well. As I said, there's tweaks and changes to the design that can be done. I've seen actually some with quick reload bays mounted in the back. I mean, the only way to really improve it on my side is to stick that ER small laser in. I've had some people move the missiles to the shoulders, like on this one here, to spread the love around a little bit. It makes it a little bit tougher in a way because you can lose some of the launchers in the torsos and some of the launchers in the arms rather than lose the whole thing if the ammo goes. There's a few different options for it. None of them is really standard. But like I said, the major change there that I end up doing is to stick an ER small laser on there. But this was not the definitive Bane. People kept working on it, and the people in the Clan Jade Falcon in Olivetti decided to make another big gun platform with the Mark IV in 3066. Each arm now packs a large bore 20 class Ultra Autocannon fed by 6 tons of reload between them. That should be enough to vaporize just about anything that gets close. At longer range, you got an ER large laser on a shoulder mount, and the fancy bit is a trio of 6-tube ATM fed by 4 tons of reload, allowing you to dictate what range you want to use with those missiles. Often enough, those are mounted with the longer range missiles, so you can just give a barrage on your target as you get close, and once you're close enough, you just squeeze the trigger and just shoot as many rounds of 220s against the target and just splatter them against the wall. In 3073, Olivity released an experimental design for the Bane that the Falcons could test all sorts of different things on. The body was now made of endo-composite to save a little bit on weight, and it was protected by 19 tons of reflective plates. That's a whole lot of reflective plates. The only problem is if someone gets close by and starts punching, kicking, axing, you falling downing. I mean, physical impact is what damages reflective plates a lot. And with that kind of setup, you're going to be fairly well protected, actually, because of just the way things go. You get 16 laser heat sinks, a thing that's a little bit weird. I mean, laser heat sinks are good in space and other weird vacuum environment. In regular planetary environment, there's no real advantages to them. But the weapons you get is 4 Rotary AC-2 and a pair of Streak 10 Rack LRMs. Rotary AC-2s are the decent kind of AC-2. You're going to have a decent amount of firepower with that. Streak LRMs I'm never completely sold on, but you know, it works as it should. Each head of weapon has 2 tons of reload only, but they're protected by case 2. The shoulder mount also has a ER large laser, which helps you out once the ammo runs out. It works. It's an experimental thing. You won't see a million of those around, but we'll see how it goes. This led to the development of the Mark V, which is the not-so-experimental version of this. This one uses standard armor rather than reflective, but I've seen them replated as well. The two kinds exist, and you get 17 standard double heat sinks rather than the laser heat sinks, which are harder to manufacture. It's also a little bit more sensible in terms of weapon. The 4 Rotary AC-2 are now fed by 6 tons of reload, and your LRM racks are now standard rather than the super fancy Streak ones. I like the regular ones better just because I like indirect firing. It is up to you. All ammo is still protected by case 2, which is really good, and you get an ECM to increase defense on the machine. And you still even get that ER large laser, which is a nice addition. Your Mark VI Bane goes back to a lot of small calibers, with each arm now mounting 5 Protomech AC-2, or as some people like to call them, Light AC-2 Clan Edition. These one have 6 tons of reloads that are protected by case 2, meaning that you can bring a whole lot of specialty ammo in. You can look at things like armor piercing, precision, flak, etc., but you're not going to have the same volume of fire as an Ultra AC-2, and you're not going to have the range of the Ultra AC-2. An advantage to this, though, is that they're a little bit lighter, so you can mount 4 ER medium lasers instead of machine guns as a backup, and everything is tied to a targeting computer, meaning that things are going to be very accurate, just at a much shorter range. You have an ECM to protect you from enemy electronics, and especially protect your own targeting computer from enemy ACMs. It's not a bad design, it's just not one of my favorite, and I would rather go with the original Bane rather than this one. You will see a new subset of Banes carrying the radome from a Rifleman 2C or Glass Spider. It's usually mounted on the back, slightly tilted. I don't have a picture of one here. Put a regular Bane in because, well, that's what I've got. It's a massive structural change, seems to come from deep in the periphery, so either the Omeral clans or the Goliath Scorpions are building them. I'm not quite sure who. The big changes is that there's an endo-steel chassis in order to support that particular radome on the back, giving you also room to put more Ultra AC-2 ammo and Case 2 to protect them. This AA Bane is able to stay in the field a lot longer, and I've even seen some with some reflective armor being mounted on. A little bit of an odd duck, and I think it could be scary if it starts being a little bit more common, especially for our friends in the air. The Mark II and Mark III Banes are real menace, and they come in enough that you're going to have to worry whenever the word Bane or Kraken show up in your heads-up display. VTOL pilots also know better than to get close to a Mark I or a Mark VI due to the sheer amount of fire it can bring down to just transform their rotor into a Swiss cheese. The Bane might not be the first pick for a lot of officers, but if you're running a garrison, it's actually a pretty good choice. If you're an Inner Sphere commander and you have access to buy one, I mean, go ahead. I mean, it's not that special or fancy, so as long as you can get ammo for the guns on it, I mean, go ahead. So I thank you for listening to me for so long. I hope you guys have a very nice rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Release the Kraken!